Go now. Hello, everybody. Welcome today. Well, this is the second day of not being in school. Hope you guys are doing some remote learning and stuff like that at home. We got lockdown. I think Jacinda Ardern, she's going to make an announcement on the 20th. I heard. I'm not sure if that's changed or not, but maybe after Anzac Day, I think we might be going back to school because here in Nelson, things are looking pretty good. There's not a lot of community transmission, and the virus is hopefully around the country, it's going down. So that's what we're looking for. But today, actually, we're going to talk about microorganisms, which are pretty cool little things. Because I do this, in college, and you can look at these in. I'll go because they're really, when they say micro, they're really small. All right. So what we're looking at is like you can't even see them. All right. So there's the virus. The virus is kind of like the COVID. Different viruses. So we're looking at virus, a bacteria, and then yeast. Yeast is kind of like a pollen thing. All right. So these things you can't really see them. You need either a microscope. You can see yeast, or you need like a special microscope to see these. So what we're going to talk about today is so microorganisms. So viruses, the differences between virus, bacteria, and fungi, which is yeast. And then we're just going to look at what yeast does, and then look at some baking, because I love to do baking. All right, so we'll go back to me. All right. So what I was doing looking at bacteria. So bacteria is like germs, but there's also bacteria that they use in food production, and some bacteria is actually good, and some is not good. So we'll have a look at bacteria first. What does a bacteria actually look like? So if you might have seen one of these culture dishes, where they get one of these dishes. Find my. And it's like a petri dish, and you can grow bacteria, and you put a little swab of something like maybe off the table or something like that, and you can grow bacteria that looks like that. All right, and oops, wait, I need to go back to this one. All right, back to this one. So that's bacteria. So we're looking at bacteria. Now let's have another little look at bacteria. What does bacteria look like? What does bacteria look like? There's like a lot of rods and cones and things like that. I think that was the only bacteria I had. But look at these viruses. These viruses are can be quite interesting. So this bacteriophage. So that means this blue one, it actually eats bacteria. This adenovirus is more like a flu, and that's the HIV one down there. And these ones with the stalks, they look a little bit like the coronavirus, which was, I don't know if you've seen pictures of that, but it looks like this. All right. So that's the corona. People have isolated this. They're working on a vaccine. That's quite a cool picture with the red. So this is what's causing all the problem, this little guy right here. And one of the things that we look at as scientists, you look at where they come from. So where do they come from? Where do they live? What do they eat? How do they survive? And one of the biggest, the most useful, one of these microorganisms, it's actually classified as fungi, like a fungus, which is yeast. So you may have some of this around your house. I think they're looking at they're having some problems getting yeast around here, at least in Nelson there. So I'm going to show you a yeast experiment and show you what I do with the yeast. I'll show you, but this is bacteria. So what does bacteria do? Bacteria does a thing called binary fission. So you get one bacteria like this, and then it just kind of splits in two, and two of them, one becomes exactly the same as two. So that's how it's called binary fission. So that's how, we're just going to talk about reproduction. So that's how a bacteria reproduces. This is how a virus reproduces. So a virus needs a host. So it needs something So this is like that thing over there with the kind of green dots. So it goes into a cell, and then it kind of just invades the cell, and then kind of takes the DNA from the cell and replicates, which means it kind of copies the DNA. And from that one virus into that one cell, it out pops like lots. So the thing is, viruses attack the cells and use it as a host, eat what's inside, and then make some more of themselves. So that's why viruses can just go a little bit crazy. So once they start, they can, it's really kind of hard to stop them, all right? So I'll show you my little yeast experiment. So, oh yeah, and I'll look at how yeast reproduces. So when you look at how yeast reproduces, it's really cool. It's called budding. Right? So each one of those is a little yeasty thing, and if you see the little circles, it looks like little hats that come off the. These are the little buds. So once they get going, so we got dry yeast, and it really likes warm, and it likes sugar. And once it gets warm water and sugar, it starts going nuts. I'll show you how that happens. I was practicing with some yeast today, and actually last night. So I made some bagels. These bagels are so good. I would just have a whole. So I do my own do baking at home. These bagels are amazing. And what would I do? So to start the yeast, I would do. So here's your little experiment. If you want to do the experiment and find out, okay, what is yeast like? So I would take 3 cups, and I would put warm. So we're going to use water. So I would put warm. So one is warm. What's the other one? So we're kind of testing to see what yeast likes. One's warm, one's cold. Okay, and I'm pretty sure that, well, obviously we need sugar. Okay, so we're gonna put warm and sugar in this one. We're gonna put cold and sugar in this one. And you can make a few of these. I'm just gonna do three, and then we can just put cold, okay? So we have, we're gonna put, say I've set this up, so we're gonna make 3 different ones. So we've labeled them, so we can figure out what actually happens when we do this little experiment. So this one will be warm, and you put a little bit of warm. The other one will be cold. This is kind of a model. All right, so this one's warm and sugar. Hey Finn, could you grab me the sugar, please? So we're looking at, and then use a little bit of yeast. So what I'm going to use is the yeast, and I would use like 1 spoon of yeast. Oh, I put sugar. When you do the sugar, this is how I start the. Thank you. A little bit of sugar in there. All right. So this. So you're putting. I put like a tablespoon of sugar. So this one is warm with sugar, cold with sugar, and then the other one's just cold. All right. And then from there, we put the yeast on top. This is how I start every batch of baking. When I do baking, I put the warm water, use about a ½ cup, and then with warm water and sugar gets the yeast going. So that's warm water, sugar. This is cold water, sugar, and they all have yeast in them. And over time, we do little tests and see which one does what. And since you can do this one at home if you want, but this is what happens when you get, so this little one, warm sugar and yeast, turns into this big bubbling kind of concoction of foam. And what happens, the yeast eats the sugar and produces carbon dioxide and alcohol. And so basically it's bubbling away. And what makes the, I'll cut open this bagel. So if you look at that, when you do baking, you're looking at any kind of bread or the store-bought bread, you can see all these little holes. Okay, so this is the carbon dioxide. This is the yeast reacting with all those little circles, all the little holes in there. That's the, when you put the yeast in there and you pound it down. So I'm gonna get this. I've got this. I was just making it rise. So this is like a big thing. It's got all kinds of holes in it. When I take this off, it's going to go down. Oops. So this is our yeast, the dough. And then I would just whack it on here. This is so, I really, if you're not doing anything today, definitely get this stuff out. Do a little bit of baking. It's really good science stuff. I'm going to scrape this out. So I put a little oil in there. And then back down onto the, onto the bread. I got a breadboard. I just prepared earlier. Okay, and then I hope you guys have done baking. Baking is so much fun. But it's also, there's a lot of science in baking. I'm going to put this little bit of flour on there just so I can get off my hands. And so then we're going to punch this baby down. Get rid of that. And this is the best part, kneading the dough. So we kneaded this once, and then we let it rise. And then from this, you can do pizza. Like we made pizzas the other night. You can do pizza. It's really good for pizza dough. You can make scones. You can make bread. Fry bread. Fry bread's really good. You do fry bread. And so that's the dough. And the yeast is in there. The yeast is burgling and eating away, and it's making, when it rises and cooks, it's going to create those holes in there, and it makes the bread rise. All right. So what else? I think that's, oh yeah, and the bagels. The bagels are really good. And remember, it's got to be, when you start the yeast has to be warm. It's got to have warm water, about body temperature, because if it's too hot, it'll kill the yeast, and if it's too cold, the yeast won't rise. Let's see what else. What have we got else? Oh yeah, this. We looked at those, and again, just back to this. This is the yeast. These are the yeast budding. And remember, yeast is like a fungi. Yeast is the fungi. The bacteria is, oops, I'm moving you guys around. See if we can find that. Oh yeah, that's the bacteria one. But other than that, today is what we were learning about today in our little science was microorganisms. That's a big word. And in that category are virus, bacteria, fungi. You can do a little bit of research, and how yeast works. So yeast works by, just going back to that, yeast eats the sugar and releases carbon dioxide and alcohol. Oh yeah, yeast is used a lot in making beer and wine and those kind of things too. All right, well, thanks for coming. That's our little science for today. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time. See you tomorrow. Okay, I think we're gonna do some air pressure and some more explosions and things like that. We'll do some explosions tomorrow. I think that'll be good. I'm gonna blow some stuff up. Okay, I'd see you guys.